So today I actually came with a script. I was going to read to you and pretend as if I'm not looking. Yeah, but my podium is not here, so I'm going to have to rely on my KNUST memorization cup. Okay, so I'm going to tell you three stories. Two of them are from Ghana, and one of them is from my experience in the UK. Somewhere last week, the yeah, somewhere last week, the Ghana Institute of Engineers came up with the first ever infrastructure scorecard, and Ghana scored a D3, yeah, which was really poor. And I think one of the government officials was asked for his response to that score, and he said that, well, most of the amount of money that we've invested in infrastructure does not commensurate with the quality of infrastructure that we see. So I asked myself three questions. Who gave out the contract? Who supervised the outcome of the contract? And where is the rest of the money? Yeah. I think about 2 weeks ago, I picked a trotro. And for those of you who do not know what a trotro is, it's basically the oven buses we see around in town, most of the time with the door open and a gentleman in or hanging out of the door shouting the names of places in Accra. La Paz, La Paz, La Paz, or Circle. Yeah. So I picked one of this trotro to go home after work. Whilst waiting in the trotro, I didn't have battery on my phone to listen to music. So I had to pay attention to anybody who was boarding the trotro because I was very grateful that they were getting in to get the bus to be full so that we can move. This particular lady entered, and I took particular attention to this lady because she was on the phone talking, and she sounded very angry. Anybody has had that experience before in a trotro? Yeah. She was super angry, and because I wasn't listening to music, I had to listen to her conversation. I wasn't eavesdropping. Yeah, I had to listen. Yeah, this lady apparently had just returned from the Achimota hospital, and she went there with a national health insurance card. And we all know that when we talk about health insurance, at least you're supposed to go to the hospital, get some medicines, and then you know that you are sorted. But this lady was angry, not because she didn't have a card with her, but because even though she went to the hospital with her card, she had to return with no medication. Yeah. And in her angry words, she was like, "Yeah, mami parampo." And translation, basically, it means that she wasn't given paracetamol, which is in Ghana it's supposed to be one of the cheapest drugs around. Yeah. So I asked myself again, how was she supposed to be given paracetamol when the premiums collected are so unrealistic? How was she supposed to be given paracetamol when the government owes the NHIS? How was she supposed to be given paracetamol when the NHIS itself is riddled with a lot of corruption? Back to my third story. Okay, so I recently graduated from University of Bristol with a master's in economics and finance. And Bristol is a beautiful city. Hello? Yeah, it's a super nice city. Whilst halfway through my studies, my dad came to visit, and I was so excited to show him around Bristol, the suspension bridge, and so many interesting places in Bristol. So when I was going to the train station, I decided to buy a ticket so that we could easily move around without having to struggle so much. So when I was buying the ticket, I had two options. Either I bought a single ticket, which I had to pay for another ticket again if I needed to pick the bus, or buy the day ticket. And the day ticket would allow me to go through the city the entire day without having to pay for another ticket. So the single ticket was £1.50, and the day ticket was £4.50. Now, as an economics student, that was a tough decision. Yeah, I finally decided I was going to go for the day ticket because it was more economical. Yeah, because we had a lot of stops. So I picked my dad up from the train station, and when I met him, he told me that he has to be in Oxford, so he's not going to be able to spend a lot of time with me. So we ended up walking through the city center, and we got to my apartment, and we had a meal together. So we actually used the ticket just once to the train station when I was going to see him off. Okay, so we got to the train station and we were saying our goodbyes, and he realized that he still had a day ticket that I purchased for him. So he was like, Nyako, that is my local name. Nyako, I think we should give this ticket to someone standing at the bus stop because we used it just once. And at that moment, I thought it was a good idea because we had just used it once. But upon quick and careful consideration, I realized it wasn't. I told him that, no, we better not. There is a high chance that anybody at this station that we give this ticket to is going to tell us that we are trying to rob their government of revenue that it needs to run operations. Yeah. So at that very moment, it dawned on us that the citizens of this country trusted in the mandates that they've given to their government, and because they knew that they were going to hold this in high esteem, they were also willing to do their part to help the government or the society develop. Yeah. So these are my 3 stories. And I guess we can all see the clear differences here. Good governance. So what is good governance? I define good governance as a value-driven governance. It's not just a governance where we expect the government. Okay, it's gone now. So it's not just good governance where we expect the government to make the best possible decisions. And when I say best, according to what they think to be best, and basically use the best possible ways of implementing their decisions. I think good governance also reflects in the choices that the citizens make. Yeah, it does reflect in the choices that the citizens make. I was just having a conversation with Abna, who just spoke, and she was telling me about experience working in a public institution, the kind of reception that you get when you walk into a public institution, the use of stationery in the office. And it's not just the public institutions, even sometimes within the private institutions. We all use office internet for Facebook or YouTube, even though we won't listen to YouTube on our own data for the entire day. We do that. And our excuse is, well, I'm trying to get the encouragement or the motivation to give my best to the organization, which we all know is not true. So basically, Ghanaians have a lot to do when it comes to good governance. We have a role to play, and the government has its own role to play. That is where civil societies come in. Civil societies help advocate for the marginalized citizens in the society, just like Abna and Elijah. Yes. And also civil societies educate the citizens on their rights underlined, and the responsibilities in caps. Yeah, the responsibilities that they have towards the country. They also help the government to identify with the pulse of the people that they are trying to lead. Yeah. So these are some of the things that civil societies do. And we all know civil societies. I work within a civil society, IMANI Centre for Policy and Education, and I know most of you are aware of who we are and what we do. Most of you are aware of who we are and what we do. Now, the job of civil society organizations is not always easy. It's not always easy. Pardon me. My memorization cup is, having some hitches here and there. The job of, thank you. Thank you. I think it's back. Yeah, it was charging up. Yeah, doom so. The job of civil societies is not always easy. Civil societies mostly thrive well within an environment where there is transparency and accountability. But in Africa and in most development countries, unfortunately, accountability and transparency is seriously lacking. But does this mean that we have to give up on the fight that we owe to our people? No. And one reason why I think we cannot give up is that Kwame Nkrumah, who happens to be my grandfather, I'm Anita Nkrumah. I'm kidding. Yeah, Kwame Nkrumah, who happens to, Kwame Nkrumah and his colleagues, they fought for independence for Ghana when no precedents existed in Africa. Certainly, there were challenges. If they didn't give up, we don't have any excuse to give up in this fight for a better and a well-developed nation. Okay. So how can civil society ensure that we get the results that we are trying to achieve with all these civil societies around? I believe that civil societies need to be focused, results-driven, and deliberate in their actions. Now, Abena spoke about how she had to leave her job and focus on her NGO. That's what I'm talking about. And in Ghana, for example, in a typical week, we can have multiple problems popping up. So we have Galamsey today, we have Bust tomorrow, and then even in one day, we can have 3 serious problems that you have to attend to. If you spread your efforts so thin, you end up saying a lot, but you don't really achieve much. So the need for us to be focused, deliberate, and results-driven is very, very important. Well, which other way can we also ensure that civil societies are relevant to society? I am very passionate about the youth, as Bernard said, and I think one way that civil society can ensure that there is continuity in their work is to educate the young people. Well, when I was in senior high school and then in uni, often we have our lecturers or our teachers addressing us as future leaders. And anytime I hear that word, I recall inside, because I had no idea who a future leader was. I didn't feel that I was prepared enough to contribute to the solutions that Ghana was facing, and yet I was a future leader. And this is the situation in most secondary schools and in most universities. We have university graduates coming out with zero idea what they want to do, much less how they want to contribute to the development of their country. Much less how they want to contribute to the development of their country. We have so many civil society organizations, Food for All, different NGOs. I think one way that we can ensure that there is some sort of continuity for our activities is to get students to volunteer within these organizations. When I studied in the UK, volunteerism was common. Everywhere you go, old people were volunteering, young people were volunteering, graduates were volunteering. People finish school and they want to go and volunteer for a year before they start earning money. But that is not the case in Ghana. I've never volunteered in Ghana before, except in church. Yeah. I don't even know of any institution offering the opportunity for me to go in and volunteer. I can volunteer even as I work. Even as a career person, I can still volunteer 1 hour of my time and 2 hours of my time to help the country develop. As Abna said, sometimes we do not get problems solved because we think we do not have enough to contribute to that development. But even if you spare 1 hour volunteering, you will be making an impact. And when I talk about volunteering, it has a very long-term and sustainable side of it. For example, when I was in senior high school, my headmistress got about 7 of us to do this volunteering exercise. At that time, I didn't know I was volunteering. Yeah. So at the end of, in Ghana, we school in boarding houses. So at the end of every term, we'll go around and every dorm and pick up leftover food. And when we got this leftover food, we'll take them to an orphanage near us. When we got to the orphanage, we not only just presented them with the food, we helped them clean their rooms, we weeded around, we did all kinds of things, and the children were very happy to have people come from outside and interact with them. And it made me understand that how people, the experiences of orphans within orphanages. So when we increase the rate of volunteering in the country, definitely young people are going to be able to properly identify with the problems of society, so that even as they go through the education system, they are able to pick a niche where they feel they are well equipped and they are passionate about to contribute to that kind of development. So there is a lot of fight ahead of us, and we all need to contribute to get this done. So I would entreat each and every one of you to volunteer at least 1 hour of your time doing something apart from church. Yes. So now what I'm looking at is, if we fight for a value-driven society, maybe the infrastructure scorecard that we just heard about would have been a D1. And D1 may not necessarily be that great, but the reason will not be because we gave money to people to do their job and they didn't do the right thing. It will probably be because we had very little resources, but we made prudent use of those resources to the extent that we were able to build nice roads, though they may not be top-notch quality, but still they were good enough to score as a D1. So I would like to call on all of us to be civil societies in wherever that we are. We can join one, or we can gather our friends together and help solve a problem within our community. I think after we've talked about all the problems, after we've had drinks and discussed all the bust issues, we should look for an avenue to be impactful within our country. Thank you very much.